Jai Hind students. As in our previous module, we discussed about the indigo cultivation under niche system. Today we will talk the indigo cultivation under Rayoti system, and we will come to know that there were several problems and even issues in niche system. What were the issues in Rayoti system and how Rayoti system was conducted. So under this system, the planters means the officials or the especially the business people, right, who became the planters, they forced the Roths to sign a contract, an agreement, and that agreement was known as Satta. At times, they pressurized the village headman to sign the contract on behalf of the Ryots. Those who signed the contract got cash advance from the planters at a low rate of interest to produce indigo, but who denied or who signed late, they had to pay more. But the loan committed the Ryots to cultivating indigo on at least 25% of the area under his holding. The planter provided the seed and the drill, whereas the cultivators prepared the soil, sowed the seed and looked after the crops. But there were several issues in that system. When the crop was delivered to the planter after the harvest, a new loan was generated. A new loan was given to the Ryoth, and the cycle started all over again and again. Peasants who were initially tempted by the loan soon realized that how harsh the system was. There were other problems too. The planters usually insisted that the indigo should be cultivated on the best soil, which peasants generally preferred to cultivate rice. And as indigo has deep roots and generally it exhausted the soil rapidly, so it was for sure that after harvesting of indigo, the land could not be sown with rice. So that was also a problem, and that was the reason that the planters they were trying to deny, but they were not able because they had already taken a big loan. So in this way, in this here you can see better that under niche cultivation, less than 25% of cultivators or planter, generally peasants, they cultivated. But in Rayoti system, around 75% of the cultivators were trapped in that system. They were tempted. Now we will talk about the manufacturing of indigo. How the indigo was manufactured. The indigo was taken to vat or the fermenting vessels, in a different fermenting vessels, or it was known as steeper vat also. Vat beater had to remain in waist deep for 8 hours. There were 3 vats. In 3 vat system, the indigo was manufactured. Under the first vat, leaves stripped off the indigo plant were first soaked in warm water in a vat for several hours. The liquid began to boil and rotten leaves were taken out. Then the liquid was drained into another vat. That vat was placed just below the first vat. Now, what will be the process in the second vat? See, the solution was continuously stirred and beaten with paddles. It turned green and then blue. First it turned green and then it turned into the blue color. Lime water was added and indigo was separated out in the flax. After adding the lime water, the indigo was separated. A muddy sediment settled at the bottom and clear liquid rose to the surface. Now in third vat, liquid was drained off and the sediments, indigo pulp transferred to another vat and then pressed and dried for the sale. Now we will see what type of rebellion or rebel took place under this system. As we had already discussed that the peasants understood that the Rayoti system was extremely harsh, but they were not able to cope up with this and they were not able to come out from that system. So in March 1859, thousands of ryots in Bengal refused to grow indigo. As the rebellion spread, ryots refused to pay rent to the planters and attacked indigo factories armed with swords and spears, bows and arrows. Women turned up to fight with pots, pans and kitchen implements. Those who worked for the planters were socially boycotted, and the agents of planters who came to collect taxes or rent were beaten up. As we have seen that indigo system was extremely oppressive. So the peasants were fully unhappy, but those who were oppressed do not always rise up in rebellion, but this time they do so. Why did? The answer is they got the support of local zamindars and village headmen in their rebellion against the planters. In many villages, headmen who had been forced to sign indigo contracts mobilized the indigo peasants and fought battles with the lathials. Now, after this rebellion, there was one more threat for the Britishers, and they were worried about another rebellion after 1857. As the indigo peasants also imagined that the British government would support them in their struggle against the planters, but that actually did not happen. So after the revolt of 1857, the British government was particularly worried about the possibility of another popular rebellion, and when the news spread of a shimmering revolt in the Indigo district, the Lieutenant Governor toured the region in the winter of 1859. The Ryots saw the tour as a sign of government sympathy for their plight. But when in Barasat, the magistrate Ashley Eden issued a notice stating that ryots would not be compelled against to accept any kind of indigo contract. Word went around the Queen Victoria that had been in that word it was declared that indigo need not to be sown. Eden was trying to control an explosive situation, but his action was read as support for the rebellion. So, worried by the rebellion, the government brought in the military to protect the planters from assault and set up the Indigo Commission to inquire into the system of indigo production. The commission held the planters guilty and criticized them for the coercive methods that they used with indigo cultivators. It declared that indigo production was not profitable for ryots. So, the commission asked the ryots to fulfill their existing contracts, but in that contract it was also told them that they could refuse the produce of indigo in future. Anytime they can refuse, that they will not cultivate more indigos. Now it was the time when after this revolt, indigo production collapsed in Bengal, but the planters now shifted their operation to Bihar. With the discovery of synthetic dyes in the late 19th century, their business was severely affected, because definitely after that rebel, business definitely will get severely affected, but yet they managed to expand production. In 1917, Mahatma Gandhi visited and marked the beginning of Champaran movement against the indigo planters. For today, this was all about. Now, if you have any kind of query, any doubt, you can get back to me and we will discuss in our coming classes. Till then, goodbye. Have a safe life. Jai Hind.